Hey everybody, welcome back to the Backpack Bash. This is video 4, and in today's video we are going to be making the Cornish Backpack. Now this is a rucksack style bag in that, or at least it feels like a rucksack style to me. It feels like a bag that you would roll and close it that way. But the way that Joe designed the pattern, the feature of it is that the straps actually keep the top of it closed, which is a really neat addition, feature, detail, if you will. But yeah, so rucksack style, it's a fairly large backpack, I would say. It's not large in width, but it's tall. This would be a great work bag, a great bag to take out on a hike, a day trip, things like that. It has 2 front pockets, 2 slip pockets. There aren't any pockets along the back, but you could easily add like a zipper pocket, or I was thinking like a my Taste Steel tote, how I do that super cool hidden slip pocket. That would be a fun addition to the back. You could make this section another slip pocket, and then yeah, so on the inside, so you open it up and it has these 2 straps here that go through these oblong grommets, and when you pull on them, it effectively closes the bag at the top. So in addition to that closure, you can do a magnetic snap, and then you can also do a recessed zipper panel down inside. Now, my personal thoughts on the recessed zipper. If you're somebody who lives in like a high traffic city and you know, you're really worried about things getting taken out of your bag, you could absolutely add the zipper. My personal preference is on the next one, I would leave it out. Mainly because it has the strap closure and it has the magnetic snaps. However, if I was going to keep it and add it to my next Cornish backpack, I would probably try to move it up, because the zipper is inset in this seam right here on the front and back. So you lose kind of a lot of depth on the bag. You lose an additional 3 inches. So maybe I would design it to where the zipper was at the top and then the straps would still function like normal, or you know, whatever. There are lots of different ways that you could customize and move things around and shift things and make this bag really custom to your needs. So on the inside, there is 1 zipper pocket down. It's hard to show. There it is. So you can see my zipper overlay. So there's 1 internal zipper pocket. And then other than that, it is just an open cavern. I can show you my laptop. So my laptop fits right in there. And so I have a MacBook, and to give you some reference for height, the MacBook comes just above this seam line here. So I can pull the zipper pocket up and enclose the laptop within the zipper itself, but it doesn't naturally want to do that. I have to kind of manipulate it. I made this pattern as written with the exception of the zipper placket. So I cut it as outlined, and I just found it to be too wide. It made it really bulky over here in the side seams, and I couldn't, like, the functionality of the zipper kind of suffered. That was probably user error, I'm not really sure. But at any rate, I went back in and amended that in the middle, near the end of my construction. I took the entire bag apart and went back and I cut down the zipper placket 1 inch. So I did that on the side where the zipper tails are, not the side where the zipper 90-degree angle is. So I shortened the placket by 1 inch, and then I also shortened my zipper, the actual zipper tape, by 2 inches. And it's still a fairly long zipper. So let me give you a better view with, so there you can see down here, this is where you do the 90-degree angle, and it fits perfectly. The zipper placket fits nice down in there. It's not crunched up or bulky, crunched. But down here, you know, there was an extra, let me move this tape out of the way. Down there was an extra 1 inch of this zipper placket, and it was just too much in here. So taking out that extra 1 inch, you can see it lines it up really nicely. And yeah, so it makes it a lot easier to use in my experience. You can just unzip it. The zipper goes all the way to the end like so, and doesn't cause any weirdness. And it just makes it, I think, a little easier to use. So Joe also designed the bag to be able to pull the straps up you can adjust them down here, and then the straps will come through their grommets. Then if you needed to, for whatever reason, you could carry it like on your arm. But yeah, I think that's about, oh, the only other thing that I changed too is these straps. So like my recessed straps, I did them like recessed strap anchors instead of doing the facings that she outlines for cotton fabric. So obviously cork, non-fraying. So I frayed from the pattern. I go over all that in the video, and yeah, be sure to check out the description box if you have any questions. I have likely answered them below. And of course, if you can't find the question, answer, whatever, leave a comment, and be sure to hit the like button and the red bell button and subscribe and all that jazz. And yeah, without further ado, enjoy the Cornish Backpack. Materials overview is as follows. I am using this olive green as my main panels here. And so these are called the main panels. Okay, sorry, just wanted to make sure that I'm getting the terminology right for you guys. So 2 main panels cut and ready to go out of olive. And then I have my exterior tops. And so you cut 2 sets of these because if you look at the pattern, the exterior top is on both sides, but it also goes down onto the inside of the bag. So I am using this Potter's Peach cork. And so that will sit on top like so. And then for the front pocket, this is where the pocket that you have the 2 slip pockets here. I am using bark, all from Fabric Funhouse. But so this is the color scheme of what the bag will look like when it's done. Here I have my base, and you can see I kind of did a bad job drawing my quilting lines, but I'm going to go for kind of a starburst pattern this time. And so I put 1 layer of flex foam down there and then 1 layer of Decavillite on top. And per the instructions, I cut it out the size that it's supposed to be. And so it is, there's a bigger, wider berth on the long edges, I think because we're going to fold it over like that, than there is on the sides. So that's intentional. But so I've got my base. I have my straps cut. I'm also using the Potter's Peach over here. And then get some of this stuff out of the way. Because I didn't feel like interfacing, I am lining it with this charcoaly gray waxed canvas. And you can see it gets that really cool look whenever it's all crumpled. So this is my front pocket lining. So this will be on the exterior, but as the lining of the pocket. Here's my interior zipper pocket, and then my actual lining itself. So I'm doing all that wax canvas. And then I am doing a zipper overlay in Potter's Peach. I have my strap triangles in bark, and then my strap connectors in the Potter's Peach as well. And then I am going to make the pattern as written, which, I mean, alert the presses. This is probably, I mean, certainly I'll stray at some point, but I'm going to actually install a zip panel and a magnetic snap, which I don't quite know if they're both necessary, but I figured Joe designed it that way for a reason. So we are going to go with her design first off, and then we can make amendments if we make another one. So I have 2 zipper panels. Because I am using cork, I'm just going to make these just like I do my mini box tote. So I cut mine 2 inches wide by the length that she tells you to in the pattern. And I'm just going to fold it like that to create my zipper placket. I have my zipper cut there. And then because one end of my zipper is going to be sticking out, I have 1 zipper end cap. I have 2 zipper pulls because you have the interior zipper and then the top closure zipper. I have 2 strap slides and then 2 D-rings or rectangle rings because this will attach to my strap anchors. And then the biggest difference in this pattern is the way that the straps connect to the main panel and go through the back, which in and of itself creates a closure. So I'm really excited to try that out, but I had to order these guys for it. And these are called oblong grommets or oblong rivets. I searched one of those terms, but I like the screw-in back ones. So those are the kinds that I got. And yeah, so, and then of course all your other necessary tools, scissors, rotary cutter, rivets, a tag, And then I also have my magnetic snaps here. So let's get started. As always, the first thing that I'm going to do is all of the prep work. On my zipper panels here, I have gone ahead and added a layer of Mod Podge just to seal those edges. I have also done that to my zipper overlay as well. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is get my zipper placket ready to go. Now, I did the math and decided that 2 inches would be wide enough with the addition of the zipper itself, because the bag at completion is supposed to be 3 inches wide. And so I think with how wide zippers are and then my zipper placket, you know, keeping into account all of my seam allowances and such, I think that this should be okay. So we are going to lay our zipper so that we can recess it into the edge here. I'm going to add some tape. And I'm doing it just slightly away from the edge, the long edge here on this side, and then even farther in here. So then that way when it's folded, I'm folding, tape is going to be along the whole interior. And then hopefully I will be able to avoid sewing through the tape itself, because I will be stitching with the 1/8 seam allowance, and that should avoid any issues with the needle going through the tape, which this tape doesn't really, I don't have issues with it gumming up, but you know, better safe than sorry. I'm going to go ahead and finger press these first so that I can have a decent fold before I add my zipper tape itself. Okay, so I'm going to start with the piece of tape that is closer to, put some weights here, try to weight it. And then now what I'm going to do is with my zipper tape face up, I'm going to lay it across the cork panel. The goal is to make sure that my cork panel does not shift at all. So then that way I know that I have a nice folded edge. Just gonna peel off this tape here. And then I'm gonna lay my folded zipper tape edge a 1/2 inch. So on this 1/2 inch line here, I'm lining up the top of my zipper tape. And then now what I like to do is just add a little bit of tension so that I know the zipper tape is not all wobbly. And then lay it just like so. Then if you need to make any adjustments, you can do that. And then you can feel the bottom of the panel underneath the zipper tape, and you just want to make sure that it feels nice and straight and that everything is laid correctly. And if it isn't, just peel it off now. Fix it now before you go to this next step. Okay, so now because I finger pressed, I don't have to be as nervous about my long edges lining up because it has that press already in there. Now I'm just going to repeat on the other side, being really careful to make sure that I get my cork panels lined up properly. Okay, so I'm going to lay my zipper, the 1/2 inch line here. I'm going to lay this before I stick the rest of my panel, my zipper tape down. I'm going to lay this and make sure that my panels line up, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to do the same that I did before and kind of add a little bit of tension on this tape and make sure that it's laid nice and straight. And so you could see there's kind of a little bit of a bubble right here, and so I'm going to just peel that and just try to fix it before moving on. Now that looks much better. And now I can stick this other side down, and this will be ready to be sewn. If I can get this tape to peel. There, so it's a little bit short than the 3 inches, but I think that's okay because I'll just make up for it whenever I am adding it into my lining. And then so once I get this all sewn, I will be sure to add my zipper pull and then my, zip tab end. And then the zipper pocket will be ready to go. Now this other side that I need to connect, or that I need to prep, is the connector. And so I'm just gonna put a piece of tape right down the center here. And so again, I did my connectors 2 inches wide because I'm using cork, and I'm just gonna fold each long edge in toward the center and make those long edges touch. And then it'll make it 1 inch wide. Jersey. Okay, so lastly, on the prep work, I need to ensure that my straps are ready to go, and I'll just show you what I did here. So my straps were not quite as long as I wanted them to be, so I went ahead and cut 2 pieces, and I'm gonna piece them together, and I'm gonna do the quilt binding methods. So what I'm learning, because this is still a new process for me, but I've always been just lining up my top and right sides here. But what I'm figuring out is if you overhang it by about 1/4 inch on both sides, and then you stitch from corner to corner, then when you fold it up and over, it actually lines up. And I might be off on those measurements. Like I said, I'm still learning about this, but I've been doing that and it's been working out better. Otherwise, when you fold it, or when you line them up edge to edge like this, and then you stitch corner to corner, sometimes you'll have this overhang here on the right side, and then this side will also overhang. So I've just been kind of playing with the layout, and I've been finding that a touch of overhang helps. Now, if you are a pro at this, please let me know in the comments what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so we're gonna go to the machine. We're gonna stitch down both long edges on here. We're gonna stitch down all of our long edges around our zipper, and then we are going to connect our straps. And then depending on how I feel over there, I might go ahead and fold them in on themselves and create my 1 inch straps here. Okay, so size 4 stitch length, we are using the Tex 70 on thread, size 18 needle, and we're going for it. My tension's still, I never mess with the tension like before, so once you find a tension that works for you, leave it alone. Okay, we are all ready to finish up our straps here. So we're just going to trim that down. Trim this guy down. And so I'm just leaving about 1/4 of an inch from this top stitch line here. I'm just trimming up this little overhang, and you can see it just creates a nice straight edge, and it's nice and durable. Then I have my little strap anchors there and my zipper blanket. Let's finish the zipper first. So I'm just gonna get my zipper end cap, my pull, and then a screw, and a screwdriver. So I feel like this zipper is a little long for this bag, but I'd already cut it, so I'm just going to use it as is. But I do think that given the final width of the bag, that this is just a touch excessive. I think that you could get away with, you know, 3 inches off. It would be fine. Okay, so we have that on there. I'm going to put just some quarter double stick tape just here along the bottom. Fold it into thirds. This bag is very similar to the Range backpack, but just with a different front panel. So I think this might be a quicker bag to put together, especially compared to our last two with the Guardian and the Phoebe in the Backpack Bash. So this will be a nice palette cleanser. So I'm excited to see it all come together. But okay, so now there is our zipper panel all ready to go. Move that out of the way. So we're gonna finish our strap anchors. And so you need to get your strap triangles. And what you do is you fold this top edge over. I'm just gonna do some tape. So you create a nice folded edge here. And then when you fold it like that, you line up your top edges. And then when your strap is inserted into that, then it creates a nice sturdy strap triangle. And then now once we sew it though, you cut this part off. And this is not usually how I do it. So like in the Range backpack, for example, this is exactly how you do the strap connectors. However, you don't use such long pieces to hold the ring on. And so I think this will add some nice durability though, because what'll happen is this strap anchor goes all the way to the bottom of the triangle. So it's gonna have all of that to hold on to whenever the bag is in use. Okay, so now I just need to add some tape across the top of this strap triangle. I'm going to put a piece of tape right through here as well, just to hold these guys in place while they're on the rectangle rings. Okay, so we want to sew this after this is in place here. And so I think what we need to do is we would slide it in and then cut it, or slide it. We could actually just slide it and clip it. And usually when I'm making ranges, I space this strap connector over so there's a little gap right there. But I think I'm going to stick all the way to the end. I'm pretty sure that's how Joe has it in the pattern too. But I'm going to go all the way to the end like that. And a couple reasons. I think it'll be easier to sew. As long as you can stay here on this seam, it'll be easier to sew. And it'll give you a lot more leeway here once the strap connector is attached to our side panel. Alternatively, what you could do is just top stitch along this top edge here and then just put rivets in, and then it would be held together by the rivets. But we'll try stitching one. It might get a little bit dicey with all the layers, but we'll give it a go. We'll try it out. So what I'm looking for here is that the bottom of my internal strap connector is almost to the bottom, or as close to the bottom as possible. And then I also want my other edges to be lined up. Okay, so now when I go stitch these, I'm just going to stitch across the folded edge and down. But depending on how hairy it gets, maybe I'll just go right across the folded edge. Okay, and then lastly, what we need to do over here is fold our straps in to create 1 inch wide straps. So I'm going to speed this up so that you don't have to watch all of it. But essentially, I'm just going to draw a line right down the center here, add some double stick tape, and then fold it and clip it all the way down. All right, so to finish off this prep work here, we're gonna go sew down our straps. I'm gonna sew down the center and down the long edge. And I'm also gonna sew, I'm gonna sew across the top here. Something else I'm gonna do before I pop over there, because it's gonna be our next step. And you know, anything about me, I try to be as efficient as possible. So I'm gonna get the next step of prep work going too. And that is, we need our front pocket, our exterior pocket. We're gonna take the cork and the wax canvas. I'm gonna lay them right sides together and get this ready, because I just need to stitch across the top here. Then I'm gonna flip and top stitch so that that's ready to go. And then I also need to quilt my base. So I'm gonna do all of that over at the machine this next time. my connectors are done, and now what I'm going to do is just add a rivet right here in the center, just for added durability. And then what we would do is cut our connectors so that they are triangular rather than square. Like so. Okay, so there's this. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is work on our front panel. So I'm going to gather one exterior main, and then my pocket panel that I previously prepped. I was thinking about it, you could easily add some quilting lines on here, and that would make it more stiff and durable, and it would be a cool visual interest, especially if you had what's the word? The colored thread that doesn't match, whatever that word is. Drawing a blank. But so what I'm going to do to stick this into place a little bit is just add a couple of pieces of double stick tape. You could also glue. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to do it so that it doesn't shift around on me. The other alternative is you could just baste around the whole thing. But we're about to baste it onto the front panel, which is why I didn't do that before. Contrasting color, that's what I'm thinking of. A contrast color thread and doing some stitch lines would be really, really cool. Okay, so now we need to lay it up from the bottom of the panel. So there is a measurement in the pattern, and I'm doing my folded edge here toward the top, my non-folded edge here toward the bottom. I'm just going to add some clips all around. And something else that you want to pay attention to is that this top of your pocket is even. So that's actually, so I did the measurement here, but I'm going to lay this looking at where exactly the top of my pocket goes up. I'm actually going to move that down so that I know for certain that that is straight. And then now to create the center line, I'm just going to make a mark here. I'm going to do 2 lines so that I can put a rivet down each side. So I'm leaving a 1/2 inch gap here. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch down both of these, and then I'm going to baste the exteriors of the pockets together. And now this is a raw edge, and that is okay because we're going to cut into this pocket to create our boxed bottom, and then we're going to add a panel on top of it. So that is okay that that is left raw. Alrighty, so we need to gather both of our exteriors now. You might notice I went ahead and added my tag. I did that 1 inch up for my pocket, so if you like that placement, go ahead and do that now. And so what we're gonna do is take both of our exterior tops and just clip them right along here and then stitch into place. Repeat that on this side. I do think if you wanted to, you could totally repeat these slip pockets along the back panel, or you could add, like on my Tasteel tote, how I have that like super fun hidden pocket, you could add one of those to the back and then it would only be accessible, you know, it would be hidden while you're wearing the backpack. You could make this a whole nother slip pocket here if you add some linings here. There are lots of ways to add way more pockets to this bag if that was something that you wanted to do. Before moving over to the machine to stitch, I'm gonna go ahead and cut out my bottom boxes as well. So that way, once I get this section done, I can go ahead and lay the two panels right sides together and connect them. So the measurement is in the pattern that you're gonna cut out for your boxed bottom edges, and I'm just going to do that on all 4 of them before I go over to the machine. And then this one you're going to be cutting on top of your pocket here, so that is what you're supposed to do. So now, stitch across the tops, butterfly them open and top stitch on both sides, and then I'm gonna lay them right sides together, clip across here, and stitch this section as well. Alrighty, so we are all stitched together, and you might not have caught it, but I did butterfly the stitch or the seam line open just so that way it laid nicely. And so we now have the front panel connected to the back panel, and we need to add our strap anchors. And now usually strap anchors get added to the back, but Joe has you add them to the front. So we're gonna give it a go. I've never done it that way, but let's see how it shakes out and how it happens. Okay, there we go. So 2 3/4 these need to be. That seems a touch. I'm gonna go 2 inches on mine. So I'm gonna lay them 2 inches, and I'm gonna line up my side seams like so. And now this is going to be a pretty thick area, especially whenever we're combining all the sides here, because this is all the way to the bottom. So it's just something to keep in mind. So that goes like that. And then now, before we go back over to the other side of the table, what I'm going to do is prep my base. So obviously I quilted my base earlier, and in the pattern she has you fold the long edge in around that foam. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll stick it here across this seam. So I'm going to do some 1/2 inch double stick tape down each long edge. Salvador, please, don't do that. Like that. And then I'm also going to add another piece just here down this section. So I'm crossing over my raw edge to encase it. And then it's going to double as double stick tape for this, for whenever I lay it here. I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. Salvador, what are you doing? Sal's in here. He never comes in here. It's terrorizing it. And so now you just need to lay this piece centered along the bottom. You can see my cuts, my 2-inch cuts are a little bit off just from shifting and movement whenever I was stitching it down, but it is all right. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the machine. I'm going to baste these into place here down both sides, and then I'm going to stitch across all or both of my long edges right there. Okay, we need to complete our back or our main panel here, and the way that we do that is we're just going to fold our seams or our panels rather, right sides together. And the first thing that I'm going to pay attention to is these side seams. I'm going to get those clipped into place and make sure that those line up correctly. And then I'll work my way around the rest of the panels. And so because this is so thick here at the bottom, it's, you know, you're going to have to use your strong hands and just get it clipped all the way around. Okay, and then now what we're going to do is just go and stitch. Now the pattern calls for a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but I did not do a 1/2 inch seam allowance down here on the bottom. So whatever you do on this bottom section, mirror that on your side sections so that your bag doesn't sit lopsided. Okay, so since we're already over here and we're almost done, all I'm gonna do is you gotta push your two little thingamajigs together to create your boxed bottom. Let's get that done while we're over here. And now it says to butterfly the seam open. That's, you could totally do that. I've gotten, it's really, really thick in through here. So yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. I'll attempt to butterfly it. We'll see. Alrighty, she is coming together, folks. So because of all of the layers down at the bottom, it's going to be nice and really structured at the base, which is really great. It gives it a lot of, you know, stability, which is nice, especially in a backpack. The only thing is that because there's only one layer of cork along the front, or along the back rather, this side is going to feel, it feels a lot less structured. I don't think that that's going to be a big issue. It's just something that I'm noticing in comparison with the rest of the bag. So I would potentially on the next one consider quilting the back of it as well. I've done that on several ranges, and it gives it a really cool effect, and it just adds that stability so that the front of the bag has the same feel as the back of the bag. Okay, here's the shell of our Cornish backpack. So I know in Joe's intro video on the bag, she said that these pockets were to fit like flip-flops, which is really cool. Makes it a fun beach bag. But you could easily put probably like a notebook, obviously pens and paper. Your phone can slide in there. I guess, of course, just things that you wouldn't be super concerned about with losing potentially. But this bag's a lot bigger than I was expecting it for some reason. So it could really, just like she designed it for, be a great beach bag. Or like a great day trip bag, like a nice hiking bag. Potentially fit some bottles of water in there. Things like that. Let's just take a second and appreciate how perfect that is. Gosh, I love it when seams meet up perfectly. And it's not 100% perfect because my stitching line isn't 100%, but the seam line, mwah. All right, we are beginning the inside, the lining. So I'm gonna start by adding my straps to the lining top piece. This is where I'm gonna stray from the pattern because I am using raw edged textiles, i.e. cork, which means I do not have to finish the edges. I can just skip a lot of the steps and avoid doing the facings and the flipping and the da-da-da-da-da. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my straps like a recessed strap or recessed strap anchor like I do on a lot of my bags. And so what I've done is I've gone through the pattern and I figured out exactly where I want my pieces to lay, my straps to lay. And I don't wanna give you 100% those measurements because Joe provides them and I don't know if mine are exactly like hers. So if I give measure, I don't want to confuse you. So all that I'm going to say is make sure that you notate where you make your cuts, because if you do not make your cuts in the same place whenever you're installing the oblong grommets, you're going to have an issue. So moving along, now that I have my slits here, I cut 1-inch slits into my cork. I'm going to lay my strap with the seam side up. So technically the strap is right side down inside of my slit that I've cut. And what I'm going to do is flip this and just make sure that I have enough down here to add some rivets to. So I'm going to let it overhang about 1 inch. Put that in place. I'm going to let this one overhang about 1 inch. And I'm going to get a piece of tape and just tape it into place that it doesn't shift around on me. Okay, and then so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop to the machine and I'm going to stitch right above this cut line right here, staying within this boundary of my strap. Okay, so I got it all stitched down and I just couldn't really quite figure out why it didn't look right. And I think what I realized is when I'm making a bag and I'm doing recessed strap anchors, it's actually strap anchors. It's not recessed straps. So what's happening is it's leaving the stitching exposed here, whereas on the actual strap anchor, what happens is you loop the anchor itself back down and it in turn it covers up that stitching. So what I think I found is if I do this little facing here like that, it looks really cool. It's nice and neat and it gives it a cool finished look. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I thought that I would show you guys how I came up with this. So my straps are 1 inch wide. And so I cut the width of my anchor cover, strap cover, 1 inch wide. And then at 1.75 inches, well, it's 1 inch tall by 1.75 inch wide. And then I need to find the middle of this anchor. And so if it's 1 point, so what I do is you're going to make marks 3/8 from both short edge and then connect those lines at 1/2 inch because we know that it's 1 inch tall. And then so my thought is to just stitch around the whole thing, and we'll see how hard that is. I've never done this before, but I feel like it just makes it look better. Sal's in here just being a pain in the butt. He is chewing on my computer cord. He must be bored. Okay, I'm not going to put glue on yet. So I'm going to slide it onto my strap with it facing out all the way down to the panel. And then maybe I'll just add some double stick tape. But so I want to add some tape or some glue here so that this doesn't shift around. So then when I'm stitching it, it stays put. So I think I'm actually going to go with tape. Ultimately, it would be nice to not even have to stitch around here. It would be cool if I could just add some rivets, which I still want to add rivets so that the strap has some extra durability. So yeah, we're working through this in real time. But I just wasn't super pleased. I just feel like it looked just a touch unfinished. But this will be cool because it'll tie the green in, because the zipper panel that'll be going right here is granada or bark. And so it'll tie all 3 of the colors of the bag together. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is go back over to the machine and going nice and slow and as well, or as as carefully as possible, I'm gonna stitch all the way around my straps on these little anchor pieces. And I might have to start and stop so that I can move my strap out of place. I'm not sure. So let's find out. It worked. It looks so cute. So now I'm just going to add maybe 1 rivet to here, possibly 2. Just to add some strength, because this will be bearing all the weight of the backpack. So yeah, I'm just going to go with 2 right underneath the strap where I would normally add rivets while adding strap anchors. Okay, next up we need to add in our magnetic snaps. So I've got those marked already. We're going to do this on both of these panels. And I've had it happen twice now in the past little bit that people's magnetic snaps are pulling out. So I've always pushed them out because they lay nice and flat that way and they don't have any bulk. But I'm thinking that I might need to start pushing them in. That just really bugs me because they're so bulky that way. But I'm just going to try it on this one. I guess because it's a backpack, it might not be as noticeable, but especially on like my wallets and stuff, having the tabs pushed in like that just feels very obvious to me. But we'll try it on the backpack. We'll give it a go. All right, so I just need to install this other portion. Now I'm going to create the sandwich with this side, my zipper panel, and my one lining panel. I have my stuff here. Before I put my lining panels together though, I am going to taper them in. Joe does this like really interesting method where you kind of pull it in on the center and then you flare it back out on the bottom. And I'm going to be honest, it just always confuses the hell out of me. So, and that's a callback to my last video of me saying that I just scan patterns. If I took my time with it, I'm sure I could understand it. But I find that a good simple taper works wonders for me. So that's just what I'm going to go for with mine. Now, I am pretty sure she already had you cut it a 1/2 inch shorter. So that'll be good. So once the bags are nested together, then, you know, they won't hopefully be all like crumbly inside. Not crumbly, but you know what I'm trying to say. All jammed up in there. So I'm just going to taper for my edges here. Then if it comes down to it that we need to trim the bottom more, then I will. So not a big deal there. So I'm just going to take one of my panels and I'm going to take this side of my facing that has the straps on it. I have to think about this for a second. Okay, so this, just like with my mini box tote, I'm going to lay my zipper placket face down and centered and clip it into place. And then I'm going to take my lining and lay it face down, which obviously wax canvas, there is no real right or wrong, but if you're using regular fabrics, make sure you're paying attention to their direction. Okay, now I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch this, and then I'm going to flip and top stitch. So now the trick to this bag pattern too, the way that Joe designed it, is that you top stitch with your zipper panel going toward the inside of the bag. And I didn't do that. So I had to unpick my stitches. You can see here in the wax canvas. But so I'm going to re-stitch this because I like the idea that when you don't have the zipper open in the bag, that it lays nicely into the bag and it's not just sticking up and in the way. So I'm going to top stitch on the top edge here. And then later on, if I want to, I can go back and I can steam these holes out of here if it's, you know, bothering me. Okay, so we need to install our interior pocket before we attach the lining to the top section there. So I'm just going to grab everything I need, my little tag, zipper pull, my zipper, and then my overlay here. So I'm going to burn the edges of my zipper and get the pull on it. There we go. I'm going to grab a piece of double stick tape and I'm going to stick my tape on the inside of my tag here so that, because you can see it just kind of wants to shift and move around, and I just want to make sure that it's all nice and even before sewing it into place. Okay, there we go. And then now the other tricky part is wax canvas doesn't really respond super well to double stick tape. It's not going to stop me from trying, but it's better than glue. But yeah, it's just nothing really holds to the wax, which makes sense considering that it's, you know, wax and slippery. But I am just going to add a little bit of double stick tape here in hopes that it wants to cooperate just a bit with me. I like to lay my tag before I put it down. I always put it here on the left side. So then that way when it's laid, it's on the right-hand side. And I'm gonna put mine, well, let's see. First I'm gonna find the center. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't look through the pattern. I don't know at what distance from the top Joe puts it, but I measured on this panel, and I think that having it 3 inches down so that, let's say the zipper's not being used and it's hanging down. Oh, I bet I can go a little lower or a little higher. Then it would be, so I'm gonna put the top of my overlay 2.75 inches from the top of my panel. So 1.75. 1.75 inches, centered, of course. How big is it? 10 inches. So it'll look like that. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the machine. I'm going to stitch all the way around the outside. Got to cut out the center, inlay the zipper, and then we'll tape our linings, our pocket linings into place. Okay, so starting on the right side, we're going to stitch down across the bottom, not back stitching at the start and stop, not on this one. Okay, leave ample tails, and then we're going to tie them off on the back. So pull your bottom down. And then make sure that your bottom is nice and out of the way that you have plenty of room to clear the zipper pull. And you're going to pull your threads until they're all here, and then you can tie them off. All right, then once you get them tied off on this side, trimmed, and then you flip your top down. Let's see, my tape is not sticking here. So I'm just gonna very carefully try to make sure nothing shifts around on me too much. And pull your tails out again. All right, and then now you're gonna start that stitch line over again on this side and backstitch well. Unless you want to tie off again. It's up to you. Okay, and then lastly, what we need to do is finish up our pocket, but I am going to leave a turning hole here because, yeah, I think that's how the pattern's written, but I'm not even sure. I haven't even read that far, but I'm going to leave a turning hole here and a turning hole in the lining just to make it nice and easy. Okay, completed pocket. Okay, let's trim down our pocket lining here. And now we can create the other side of our zipper sandwich. So we're gonna lay, is that right? No. Okay, we're gonna lay it like this. Making sure that everything is lined up nicely. And then another thing is you want to make sure your layout of your snap tab is on the right side, that your orientation is correct. Otherwise, you're going to have to undo this. Okay, and then so just like before, we're going to go and stitch, and then we're going to top stitch with this facing down, which I'll show you once we get over there. Okay, so just like before, we're going to fold this section and lay everything down toward the lining. So it might be easier just to lift up the whole piece like so. Down toward the lining? No, not down toward the lining. Leave it facing up toward the top. That's what got me in trouble last time. So you want your seam allowance to be going up toward the top of the bag here. She's coming together. All right, so we are to this point now. I just don't love, see, when magnetic snaps are folded in on themselves like that, I feel like it gives a lot of, it pulls a lot on the cork, and I just do not love that. So I'm gonna add just some interfacing or some glue or something here because I'm not in love with it. This is what I really struggle with snaps, because it's just really annoying. They should work right. So really, I'm just gonna take a bunch of glue. I'm gonna slather it on the back of this on the back of this interfacing. And I guess just hope for the best, to be honest. I just find that when the prongs face outward, it just lays so much nicer and flatter, and it's a smoother pull. I don't know, maybe that's all in my head. But we're gonna double up just for good measure. Flip and repeat to this side. Okay, now we need to line up our side seams and clip all the way around because we need to attach our linings. So we're gonna make sure our zipper is out of the way. And then, so what I'm paying to is matching up these side seams here. And then I'm going to start clipping all the way down and around. I know we're gonna have to cut some boxes out of the bottom. Last time, okay, so I'm gonna cut out boxes that are 1/4 inch smaller than the size that she had us do before, just so that way the box fits a little bit tighter as well. So following the pattern directions, remove a 1/4 inch if you want to follow my lead. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to stitch all the way down, and I'm going to box these corners, and I'm going to leave a birthing hole down here. So that way we have a nice big birthing hole to get through instead of turning it through the pocket. And then, yeah, we're getting close. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and box my bottoms, unzip your zipper. Make sure my seams are laying opposite each other. All right, so I'm gonna trim down some of these seams, and then we are on the final assembly. It's the final countdown. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Okay, so let's see. At this point, I am completely winging it, in case you haven't picked up on that. Make sure your inside pocket is unzipped, because that would suck if not. I'm gonna try putting my exterior into my interior just to see if that works, because they're already flipped that way. And I'm also gonna make it to where this interior pocket would be on the back of the bag. So that way not everything is on the front of the bag. Here we go. Okay. Now, obviously, the biggest part of this section is making sure that it all lines up. I'm not specifically concerned with how it looks, but as long as my side seams line up and I can ease my top into the bottom, or my lining into my exterior, that's what I'm looking for. Because technically I put the exterior into the interior, so it's not gonna fit. There's no way it's gonna fit. It's gonna be too big. If it did fit, it would be a problem. But a lot of times I find that I'll start easing it in like this just because I'm too lazy to flip everything the other direction. And then it inevitably doesn't work. So then I flip it all the other direction and it does work. So we'll see. Trying to be aware of this peach cork. It's a lot like the mustard colored cork. If it stays crinkled for too long, it's obvious. I'm just trying to make sure it's not getting crushed. It's a little off. Let's see here. What's going on here, folks? So it like wants to ease its way up for some reason right there. I mean, for the most part, it seems pretty good. So I think I'm just going to go for it. I'm feeling like a rebel without a cause today. So I'm just going to go top stitch. I'm going to flip it through the hole in the lining. And then I'm going to finger press. And I'm going to actually top stitch around the whole top of the bag. So now, the real magic is when we pull our lining through the hole in our pocket, seal this hole up, I do kind of want to tuck the bag inside first to check the fit, so I think I'll probably do that. I shouldn't have gone through all the trouble of pulling this through, but we're here now, so. Wax canvas is so cool, but it's such a pain in the butt to get laid out. Okay, since I already have the top clipped, I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch around the whole top of the bag. Get my zipper out of the way. The zipper panel is definitely, I think maybe this might be what her pattern with the cutting, folding, sewing method, it might have been in reference to the zipper. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna have to investigate a little bit on that. But maybe even if I just like iron it open. But yeah, it just seems like it all kind of comes together right in through here. So the functionality of the zipper, at least the way that I ended up doing it, seems a little funky. But let's get it top stitched. Just be sure that your straps are out of the way. Let's get her done. I'm gonna prop my machine up here, make it a faux cylinder arm, just so I can get a little bit more room under here, because I want to top stitch from the top of the bag so that I can keep a real close eye on how everything's looking. And yeah, so doing this allows that. So the next step would be to close up our birthing holes. And so we have 2 of them. So I'm going to reach in through the pocket and grab my lining and pull it through the pocket. I'm going to fold it, clip it, and then sew it closed. And then I'm going to repeat that process on the actual lining pocket itself. Whoa, almost threw my darn clips on the ground. So here's what it looks like. I've got my pocket all sewn up. Where'd that later go? Here it is. So now we just need to tuck everything back inside. Wax canvas can be a bear about this. But if you need to, you can use a blow dryer to heat it up and it'll soften the wax and it'll make it more malleable. And then that's also a way, if you get some super deep impressions in the wax canvas, you can use a blow dryer to warm up the wax and it'll take the creases out. So that's another little trickety-doo-dah. And then Joe does show a cool little trick where you sew the corner seams together to keep everything nice and just together, for lack of a better word. And I didn't do that because I forgot, but check that out in the pattern. So here is what she looks like. She's really deep, but my laptop with my zipper doesn't quite fit. Like my zipper, I can make it fit. I can pull the zipper placket up and over, see, like that. But it would just take a little bit of, you know, a little bit of work to do that. So there it is with my laptop inside of it with it closed. And then I actually went back in, and before I top stitched everything, I ended up taking the entire bag apart and I shortened the zipper placket by a whole inch. So, and I shortened my actual zipper by 2 inches. Otherwise the whole zipper would stick out. It was like rather long. And my zipper placket, so you could see, try to get a good angle for you here. But so you can see it still is like right there at the very edge. And so when it was 1 inch wider, it was so jumbled down and through here that I couldn't deal with it. So I had to go back in and I had to pull the entire bags apart. I'd gotten rather far. I'd gotten to this stage And then I decided, I went back, pulled out all of the top stitching, took the bags apart, and I had to take this whole zipper placket apart and redo it. But I think it's worth it because it sits so much nicer now. And then here it is, buttoned. So now we are at the second to last step. And this is the whole bag, the whole feature of the bag. So we need to install our oblong grommets on this side of the bag, on the back of the bag. So then when they go through here, they're going to thread through these and attach to these guys, and that will make the actual backpack straps. So let's get these going. Okay, so I got a little ruler and my marking pen, and I pulled up the pattern just to reference, and she does give you measurements, so you can definitely use those. I think I'm gonna go I'm gonna compare. So I'm gonna pull back my straps here. I'm gonna measure exactly where this slit is, and I'm gonna mirror that slit right here on the front of my bag. So then that way I know that my straps are straight coming through here. So mine are exactly 1 inch from the top seam on this side. I'm gonna do the same over here, and then I'm gonna measure the sides just to be sure. Okay, 1 inch. Wow, I did a pretty bang up job on that. Good job, Nicole. And so it stands to reason that if you have your straps pulled straight out and then you line your ruler up on it, then this would be straight and it would be even. So I'm just gonna go for it. See, now this one, when I manipulate the side edge a little bit, it changes a touch, but not by much. Okay, so there are my markings. And then now you want that mark to be right down the center of where your grommet's gonna be. So I'm gonna remove my screws. I've never used these grommets before. They're pretty cool. They were a little pricey and not the easiest thing to find, but they're pretty neat looking. And I think that they'd be cool in lots of other projects. But so the thing with these types of screw-in grommets and twist locks and things like that, if you look, okay, there you go. So you can see the whole seam all the way around, and then it needs a hole where the screw goes. But if you cut that entire piece out, you run the risk of there not being enough material for the rest of your grommet to hold on to. So what I try to do is cut out just the center, and then I punch holes right there. So we'll see. It's been a very, very, very long time since I've installed a twist lock. And so let's see how it goes. I actually just had the idea, if you had like a stamp pad, you could probably just touch it on the ink and then stamp it and get a perfect cutout. I think that would work really well. Another option would be to, actually I'm gonna try that. Another option would be to get dies that cut that out. And I have some like leather punches, but they're too rounded, so that won't work. And this, if this does not work, I run the risk of ruining this bag using permanent marker. Didn't work at all, so no worries. But I think if you had some wet ink, that would work great. Okay, so there are the actual oblong cutouts that I need to cut. And then I know that I need to have little holes punched just to the right and left of each one. So let's get these going. Cutting these holes out has never been a strong suit of mine, so let's see how this goes. So the last thing we need to do is finish the strap. So we're gonna do that just like any other bag. You just gotta make sure that you have your rivets, your slides, your thingy-majigger to mark your rivet holes. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay. She's all done. Oh, Drewsy's very excited that we are at the end of the video, and we just wanted to say we hope that you enjoyed it, and be sure to leave me a comment, a like, a subscribe, and all that jazz. Feel free to join my Patreon if you want these videos first and ad-free, and lots of other behind-the-scenes goodies. And please, if you have any other backpack patterns that you have been eyeing, let me know in the comments and I'll take a peek at them and maybe I'll add to this series. As of now, I do have one more backpack slated to be in the series, but who knows? I'm pretty go with the flowy, maybe. I'm very type A, actually. Might seem like I'm go with the flow, but very type A. But if you give me a pattern, I'll check it out, and if it fits into what I have the capabilities of doing, I will potentially add it to the lineup. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.